You want to be a samurai? Then buckle up, because this isn't a tale of shiny armor and heroic last stands in the rain. It's a path carved with blood, honor etched in pain, and death waiting patiently around every corner. So before you grip your imaginary katana, picture this. The sky roars with thunder. Lightning slices through the black clouds, and the earth is soaked, no, drowned, in the blood of countless warriors. Amidst the chaos, a lone figure kneels in the mud, his armor cracked and smeared, his sword plunged deep into the dirt before him. His breath is ragged, his body screaming for mercy. This is not the glamour you signed up for. This is the raw, merciless reality of the samurai's life. Forget the movies. Forget the romanticized battles and elegant stances. The samurai path is a relentless grind of discipline, loyalty, and sacrifice. It's waking before dawn, practicing sword strikes until your arms feel like they're on fire, swallowing pain like it's the bitterest medicine, and knowing that with every breath your life could be extinguished by a rival's blade or by the betrayal of a friend. To be a samurai means to live in the shadow of death, yet to walk forward with unwavering resolve. It means you wear your honor not as a badge, but as a blade, ready to cut through falsehood, to defend your lord, and if necessary, to sever your own life to avoid disgrace. Your day begins before the sun rises. The chill of the morning air bites at your skin as you don your armor, layers of lacquered plates and silk cords, heavy but necessary. Every piece has a purpose. Every knot tells a story. This armor is not for show. It's your second skin, your shield against a world that wishes you dead. Breakfast isn't a leisurely meal. It's a bowl of rice, a bit of salted fish if you're lucky, and green tea bitter enough to wake the dead. No feasts, no delicacies, only fuel for the rigorous training ahead. Your body will be pushed to the limit. Hours of sword play, archery, horseback riding, and meditation to sharpen your mind and steel your spirit. The code of Bushido pulses through your veins. Rectitude, courage, benevolence, respect, honesty, honor, and loyalty. These aren't empty words, but laws engraved deeper than flesh. You live by them, breathe by them, and if you fail them, you die by them. Failure is not just losing a battle, it's losing yourself. Honor above life itself. When dishonor creeps near, the samurai's answer is seppuku, the ritual suicide that cleanses disgrace with a blade. This is not cowardice, but courage beyond mortal fear. A testament to a soul untarnished by shame. Your Lord calls and you answer, not with hesitation, but with the certainty that your life is his to command. Whether marching to war across misty mountains or guarding a silent castle gate, your presence alone is a warning. A promise that the spirit of the samurai is eternal, even if the body is mortal. But it's not all battles and bloodshed. The samurai cultivate art, poetry, tea ceremonies, and calligraphy. Disciplines that temper the warrior's soul with grace and mindfulness. They understand that the sharpest sword is useless without the sharpest mind. Night falls, and you rest on a simple tatami mat, the echoes of the day's clashing steel ringing in your ears. Sleep is fleeting. Dreams are a battlefield of their own, where fear and honor clash endlessly. Tomorrow, the cycle repeats. The path never ends. So yes, you want to be a samurai. Be ready to give your all, to suffer, to sacrifice, to embrace death as a constant companion. This path is not for the faint-hearted, the curious, or the vain. It is for those who dare to walk a line so thin that one misstep means oblivion. This is your last warning. Once you step onto the path of the samurai, there is no turning back. The man who began this journey will die, and from his ashes a samurai will rise or fall. Which will you be? Welcome to the way of the warrior. Welcome to the way of the samurai. You're 5 years old, but this is not a time for play or childish wonder. This is the moment your body and mind begin to be forged, not into a child, but into a weapon. You don't get a wooden sword handed to you as a gift. You get hit with one, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. Because to be a samurai, you must first understand pain, submission, and endurance, long before the first true battle. The world you wake up to isn't soft or forgiving. Your waking moments are measured not in laughter, but in discipline. Bowing becomes your first language. The deeper, the slower, the more precise the bow, the better. Too slow, a sharp slap. Too fast, a harder one. Your instructors, the elders who wield both sword and authority, teach you early. Control is everything. Control over your body, your mind, your reactions. Every motion is scrutinized, every hesitation punished. Your hands learn to tremble not with fear, but with anticipation. Every muscle tuned to respond instantly and without question. Your days blend into rituals, each designed to condition you against weakness. Breakfast is simple rice, plain, filling, but not comforting. You swallow it quickly because there's no time for hesitation. Outside, the air smells of horse dung and sweat, the stench a constant reminder of the harshness surrounding you. You run barefoot in dirt and gravel, learning to master balance and agility before you even hold a real weapon. Each bruise, every scrape, every sting of sun and rain on your skin is a lesson, a badge earned in the school of survival. Inside the wooden walls of the dojo, calligraphy awaits. Your fingers grip the brush until they bleed, ink staining your palms and clothes. One wrong stroke, one imperfect character, and you wipe the ink clean to begin again. This isn't about art or beauty. It's about patience, precision, and humility. The samurai's mind is as important as his sword, and every brushstroke is training for focus and self-control. Mistakes are not forgiven easily. You learn to push past frustration, to endure the pain of repetition, and to find calm in the rhythm of the task. At night, when your aching body collapses onto a straw mat, your dreams don't carry images of toys or friends. They are filled with shadows of battles, the cold steel of blades, and the weight of expectations heavier than your small frame can bear. There is no room for childish fantasies here. That part of you, the part that wants warmth, safety, and softness, must be crushed early. Your first kill is not a physical opponent, but the self that clings to comfort. It must die first so the warrior within can rise. You learn quickly that the path of the samurai is one of suffering disguised as learning. Every moment of pain is a step closer to mastery. Every failure, an opportunity to harden your spirit. And so, before you ever touch a real sword, you are already battle-ready, not because you have fought enemies, but because you have conquered yourself. In this relentless training, your body becomes a temple of endurance. Muscles tighten, joints ache, skin hardens against the elements. Your breath slows, heart steadies, and every nerve sharpens. You are no longer a child. You are a blade being honed, an arrow drawn back, a storm gathering strength. The world outside will not wait for your readiness. It demands perfection, obedience, and sacrifice. You will be tested again and again, not only by opponents, but by the very limits of your flesh and soul. But if you survive this first crucible, the conditioning of your youth, you stand a chance at the true path ahead, the path of honor, pain, and death, courage, loyalty, compassion, integrity, honesty, respect, honor, the 7 virtues of Bushido. They sound noble, like words carved into stone tablets handed down by wise ancestors to guide the way of the samurai. And yes, in many ways they are noble, an ideal to strive for, a code to live by. But make no mistake, this code is not a gentle guide to a peaceful life. Bushido is a relentless force, an unyielding master that demands everything and leaves nothing behind but the cold certainty of death. Bushido doesn't promise happiness or safety. It promises a life bound by the iron chains of obligation and sacrifice. A life where your actions are not your own, but the extension of your lord's will and your clan's honor. If your lord falls in battle, you do not retreat or negotiate. You do not seek mercy or beg for your life. You follow him into the grave, sword in hand, ready to spill your blood alongside his. Death is not an enemy. It is the final proof of your loyalty, the last act of devotion. Failure is the gravest sin under Bushido. It is not simply a mistake or a loss. It is a stain on your very soul. And stains must be cleansed. The samurai cleanses dishonor with seppuku, the ritual suicide that is as much a declaration of honor as it is an act of self-destruction. This is no metaphor, no poetic flourish. The samurai does not consider death. He rehearses it every day. The dagger is practiced in silent chambers, the precise cuts memorized until they become a deadly dance. To fail your lord, your family, your code means to invite death with open arms and steady hands. The virtues of Bushido are not lofty ideals separated from the brutal reality of a samurai's life. They are iron rules, hammered into flesh and bone through years of training and countless battles. Courage is not just facing your enemy on the battlefield, but standing firm in the face of unbearable suffering. Loyalty is not a casual promise, but a lifelong commitment that transcends fear, pain, and even reason. Compassion is tempered by discipline. Show mercy, but never at the cost of duty. Integrity demands that your actions reflect your word without fail, for deceit is a poison that kills from within. Honesty and respect shape your interactions, not as polite gestures, but as essential threads in the fabric of your honor. A samurai's word is his bond, and to betray it is to tear apart the very essence of his being. Honor, the final and greatest virtue, is not a fleeting feeling or an abstract concept. It is the very air a samurai breathes, the measure by which he lives and dies. When honor is lost, life becomes unbearable. When honor is upheld, death becomes noble. Bushido is not a path to a long life or a comfortable existence. It is a path that ends in death, often violent, sometimes lonely, but always with dignity intact. The samurai's fate is sealed the moment he accepts this code. Life is a series of tests, and every decision, every battle, every word spoken carries the weight of final judgment. There is no room for hesitation or compromise. This code shapes not only the warrior, but the entire society around him. Lords demand absolute loyalty. Families expect unwavering obedience. Villages look to their samurai for protection and justice. The samurai becomes a living symbol of order and discipline, a guardian of traditions forged in blood and steel. Yet beneath the armor and ceremony lies a harsh truth. The samurai walks a razor's edge, where honor and death are inseparable companions. The weight of Bushido is felt in every breath, in every step, in every heartbeat. It is a relentless reminder that life is fragile, fleeting, and ultimately meaningless without honor. The samurai embraces this truth with open eyes and steady hands, knowing that the greatest victory is not survival, but the manner of one's death. So if you think Bushido is merely a code to live by, think again. It is a code to die by. A final testament etched in the blood and soul of every samurai who has ever drawn his sword. This is the way of the warrior, not a way to live, but a way to die properly. No, you don't get to meditate on a mountaintop while the world basks in morning light. The samurai's day begins long before the sun dares to rise, in darkness thick enough to swallow your breath. Your eyelids crack open, not to dreams but to duty, a call louder than any gong or bell. There is no lingering in warmth or comfort. There is only movement, swift and unforgiving. You roll out of your sparse futon onto cold wooden floors, the chill biting through your skin like the promise of the day ahead. Your muscles ache from yesterday's labor, your bones stiff from the weight of armor. But there's no time for complaint. You dress quickly, donning garments designed not for elegance but for function. The rough cotton kimono, the heavy hakama that rustles with every step. Each layer a reminder that you are bound by tradition, by loyalty, by an unbreakable code. Training begins immediately. There is no warm-up, no stretching with gentle care. Your body is a weapon, and weapons are sharpened through relentless repetition and pain. Sword swings crack the morning air, each strike aimed to kill, to defend, to conquer. Your feet move in precise patterns, forward, backward, sideways. A dance practiced until the motions are etched deep in muscle memory, executed without thought or hesitation. Your breath is steady, your eyes sharp, your mind empty but alert. You practice cutting men in half, but not on a battlefield. The target is an oak post, worn by thousands of strikes before, waiting for you to add your mark. The clang of steel against wood is interrupted only by the barked commands of your master and the thud of your own heartbeat pounding in your ears. Pain blossoms in your hands where the grip tightens, in your shoulders where the weight pulls down, in your legs where the endless stances burn. This pain is not weakness, it is proof you live. It is a companion, a teacher, a gatekeeper to greatness. And then, just as your limbs threaten to give way, the day's true service begins. You leave the training grounds behind and approach the estate of your lord, not as a triumphant hero, but as a servant in armor. You kneel before him, the very ground beneath your knees cold and unforgiving. This is humility, the foundation upon which all samurai stand. You are not your own master. You are an extension of your lord's will. Your honor is wrapped up in his favor. Your duties shift from battle readiness to the menial and the meticulous. You clean his sandals, wiping away the dirt of his travels with the same care and reverence you give to your katana. This task may seem small, even degrading, but it is an act of loyalty as essential as any sword strike. To the samurai, there is no task beneath him if it serves his lord. Meals are simple, fuel rather than pleasure. Millet gruel thick and bland fills your stomach. No delicate sushi or lavish feast awaits you. Water, cold and clear, quenches your thirst. Not the warm, intoxicating sake favored at celebrations or courtly gatherings. You eat quietly, mindful that indulgence is a luxury not afforded to those who live by the sword. Fear lurks within you, always. The ever-present shadow of death and failure presses against your chest. But you learn early that fear is not to be displayed. A smile at the wrong moment is a betrayal of your discipline, a sign of disrespect to your lord, your comrades, and yourself. You keep your emotions locked behind a mask of stoicism, the samurai face forged as tightly as your armor. You become a living weapon, a sword with feet and a heart, but a sword nonetheless. Your identity is bound to this purpose. There is no room for doubt, for softness, for self-indulgence. You carry your honor like steel, sharp and unyielding, ready to cut through the chaos of war or the quiet dangers of court intrigue. As night descends, you find no respite in comfort. You rest on tatami mats that do little to ease your aching body. Your mind replays the day's failures and successes, the lessons learned in sweat and blood. Sleep is a brief pause, a momentary release before the cycle begins anew. Wake, train, serve, bleed, sleep, repeat. This is the rhythm of the samurai life. It is unrelenting, unforgiving, and utterly consuming. It shapes you into something greater than a man, a guardian of honor, a vessel of loyalty, a shadow of death walking in the light. So no, you don't meditate on mountain tops. You wake before dawn, sharpen your sword and your soul, and step into the endless day of service that is your life. You are a walking sword, nothing more and nothing less. You've done everything right. You trained in the biting cold and scorching heat. You mastered the katana until your arms ached and your mind sharpened like the blade itself. You lived by Bushido, the sacred code, carrying honor as your shield and loyalty as your sword. You bowed lower than anyone, served your lord with unwavering devotion, and sacrificed more than you ever thought possible. You believed your life was his, your purpose bound to his will. And yet, the cruel truth of the samurai's world is this: your lord will kill you too. This is the bitterest poison that runs through the veins of feudal Japan, the treachery lurking beneath the polished lacquer of castles and the fragrant cherry blossoms. Loyalty is demanded as absolute, but it is a double-edged blade, one that your lord wields just as readily against you. In the delicate dance of power and survival, the samurai is not only the hunter, but often the hunted, a pawn in games far larger than himself. One day, your daimyo, the lord you pledged your life to, signs a secret pact with the enemy. Perhaps it's a fragile truce forged in the smoke-filled halls of negotiation, or a cold betrayal to consolidate power. You hear whispers, rumors sliding through the ranks like daggers. Suddenly, your place at the side of your lord is no longer safe. You become a liability, a risk to be eliminated. You are sent on a mission, cloaked in honor, but designed to be your undoing. Maybe a reconnaissance deep into enemy territory where death is almost guaranteed. Maybe a duel staged to remove you without stain on the Lord's reputation. Perhaps a sacrifice to appease shifting alliances or to distract from a political scandal. The exact nature is unimportant. The outcome is certain. Protest, and your voice is silenced with accusations of disloyalty. Obey, and you walk willingly into a death trap, pointless, unnecessary, and cruel. Survival is not salvation. If by some miracle you return, bearing scars or simply breathing, you become a threat. Suspicion festers like a wound. You are branded a traitor, your honor shredded by rumors of betrayal or cowardice. Your comrades turn cold, your lord's gaze sharpens with distrust. In this world, Your death is never your own to choose. It is written on someone else's calendar, scheduled between victories and losses like a grim appointment. You are a tool, a symbol, a disposable piece on the chessboard of ambition. The irony is sharp. Your loyalty is the very reason your life is expendable. Treachery seeps into every corner of samurai society. Alliances shift like shadows. Promises are as fleeting as cherry blossoms in the wind, and trust is a fragile currency. Even within the Lord's own court, whispers of conspiracy crawl through the corridors, and betrayal is often just a breath away. A smile can mask a dagger. A handshake conceal a death sentence. You learn quickly that the greatest threat is rarely the enemy across the battlefield, but the one beside you. A jealous rival, an ambitious retainer, or even your own lord's shifting ambitions can spell your doom. The samurai's blade must be sharp not only for the enemy's throat, but for his own back. Yet, despite the ever-present threat, the samurai endures. Because to live in fear of treachery is to surrender the very essence of his code. He accepts that death may come not from a worthy foe in battle, but from the cold hand of political necessity. The samurai's heart hardens to the bitter truth. Loyalty is a contract signed in blood, but the ink is often betrayal. So you fight. You bleed. You serve with everything you have, knowing full well that the next command could be your last. And when the end comes, whether in glory or obscurity, you face it with the same unwavering resolve. Because to be a samurai is to walk a path where honor is both shield and noose, where death is certain and loyalty is a gamble. In this world, trust no one completely. Your lord, your comrades, even your own shadow may turn against you. Your fate is not your own. It belongs to those who wield power and cruelty in equal measure. Welcome to the true way of the samurai, the path where betrayal is not a possibility, but a certainty, and where your death is just another stroke in the relentless painting of war and politics. The battlefield is not a stage set for heroics. It is not a place for poetic gestures or slow-motion duels where honor is exchanged like delicate bows and refined words. No, the battlefield is chaos incarnate, a roaring tempest of screams, clashing steel, and the metallic scent of blood mingling with sweat and fear. It's a thunderstorm that drowns out thought and reduces men to survival machines, driven by instinct and desperation. Blood is not symbolic here. It's slick, slippery, and suffocating. It pools beneath your feet, soaking into the mud, mixing with sweat and grime. It coats your hands and armor until you can no longer distinguish your own life's essence from the carnage around you. The glint of your blade is not the gleam of glory. It is the last hope to stay alive, to carve a path through the suffocating press of bodies pressing from all sides. Forget the fantasy of a fair duel, where two warriors face each other on an open field, swords gleaming and eyes locked in mutual respect. That notion is a cruel joke told by poets and playwrights who have never heard the screams of a dying comrade or felt the choking grip of panic as dozens of enemies close in like wolves surrounding their prey. You are not alone. You are surrounded. Your every breath is a struggle beneath armor that smells of your own rot and the stale sweat of countless battles. The armor, once a symbol of protection and status, becomes a prison. Heavy, restrictive, and soaked through, it weighs you down as you stumble in the mud and blood. Every movement is a battle against the very suit meant to shield you. The sun, hidden behind smoke and clouds, casts a grey pallor on the scene, making it hard to distinguish friend from foe as faces blur into grim masks of fury and terror. Your blade finds a man's ribs, sinking deep with a sickening crunch that echoes in your ears. Victory? No, just a fleeting moment in a relentless storm. You try to pull your sword free, but the pressure from behind drives you forward, off balance. Before you can react, another blade finds your neck, a sharp, icy kiss that steals your breath and your future. There is no time to cry out, no chance to plead. Death arrives, swift and unceremonious. Combat is merciless and brutal. It is short because the strong survive only moments, and the weak vanish in seconds. No one is granted the luxury of a second chance. No one is remembered for the elegance of their technique or the nobility of their cause. When the battle ends, the field is littered with broken bodies, discarded weapons, and forgotten souls. Names, faces, and stories are lost beneath the blood-soaked earth. You don't fight for glory or legend. You fight to see the next sunrise. Or perhaps not even that. The battlefield is a place where fear and courage collide in an endless frenzy, where survival depends on quick reflexes, ruthless strikes, and a cold heart. It's a massacre disguised as war, a swirling maelstrom where the only certainty is death. And when the dust settles, when the cries fade, and silence claims the land, there is no hero's welcome, no songs sung in your honor, just the cold, indifferent earth covering your broken form and the distant echo of battles yet to come. This is real combat, not the polished, choreographed duels of stories and films. It is chaos, pain, and death, all wrapped in the unyielding roar of war. You kneel. The world narrows to the cold hardness of the wooden floor beneath your knees, the weight of your armor pressing down like the very burden of your honor. This moment is unlike any before it. It is the final act in a life lived by the razor's edge, a ritual carved from centuries of tradition and sacrifice. You are about to commit seppuku, the art of tearing yourself open, not as a punishment, but as the ultimate declaration of control over your fate. Your hands tremble as you reach for the small tanto, the dagger that will split your belly and sever the thread that binds your life to this world. But before the steel bites skin, there is the writing, the death poem. A brief, poignant verse etched in ink, a final message to the living. It is not simply a goodbye. It is a summation of your life's meaning, a testament to your spirit, and a mirror reflecting the fleeting nature of existence. This poem will be remembered long after your flesh has withered and your name fades into obscurity. The room is silent, except for the faint rustle of robes and the steady breath of your kaishakunin, your second. He stands behind you, the shadow of mercy and judgment. His role is as vital as yours. If he is skilled and compassionate, the moment of release will be swift, a clean, decisive stroke that ends your suffering before it fully begins. If he falters, your final moments will be a brutal, choking struggle, your organs spilling in agony as you gasp for breath, the horror made all the more cruel by the presence of those you love, forced to witness the grotesque ballet of death. Seppuku is not mere ritual. It is a profound act of agency. In a world where a samurai's life is often claimed by the whims of others, by battlefield fury, political intrigue, or a lord's betrayal, seppuku offers a choice: to die on your own terms, with dignity and tact, pain embraced rather than avoided. It is the starkest assertion of honor, a refusal to let shame live beyond your final breath. The technique is precise and unforgiving. The blade is placed carefully, angled just so, left, right, up, each movement a deliberate slice through flesh and muscle. The pain explodes, raw and terrible, but you do not scream. Or if you do, it is but a single, controlled cry, a release of the soul in agony and defiance. Your mind flashes through the years, the training, the battles, the comrades lost, the loyalty sworn and upheld. In this agony, there is clarity. The code that bound you, the virtues that shaped you, and the path you chose. Behind you, your second watches, his hand steady on his sword. His duty is not just to sever your head, but to bear witness to your courage, to honor the life you led and the death you command. The sharp strike cuts through flesh and bone, the final severing of your mortal coil. Silence follows, an eternal stillness where the weight of life and death hangs suspended. Seppuku is not punishment. It is liberation. It is pain chosen over dishonor, the samurai's answer to a world that often offers no mercy. It is a paradox, a violent, bloody act that embodies grace, control, and ultimate respect for oneself and one's code. Even in death, the samurai wields power. In seppuku, the final chapter is written not by others, but by the warrior himself. The blade becomes the pen, the wound the signature. Through this act, he transcends fear and shame, affirming that honor is not simply about life preserved, but about death embraced with courage and grace. This is the art of seppuku, the tearing open of the body and the soul, the samurai's last stand, not against an enemy, but against dishonor itself. You must be a killer and a poet. At first glance, it sounds like a contradiction so sharp it could split the very air. How can the hand that draws blood also craft delicate verses about plum blossoms? How can the mind that strategizes death find solace in the silent ritual of tea? But this is no contradiction at all. For the samurai, it is not a choice, but a demand, a requirement written into the very fabric of their existence. To wield the sword without the soul's refinement is to be a blade without edge, a warrior without purpose. Between battles, when the clang of steel fades into memory and the bloodlust cools to a steady beat of survival, the samurai retreats inward. There is no celebration, no raucous victory feast. Instead, there is silence. A quiet room where the only sounds are the scratch of brush against paper and the measured flow of ink. Haiku, the art of condensing the universe into 17 syllables, is more than poetry. It is meditation, a distillation of nature's fleeting beauty and life's impermanence. You write of plum blossoms that bloom briefly then fall, a mirror of your own existence balanced precariously between birth and death. Each word, each syllable, is chosen with care and purpose, as deliberate as the strike of your blade. But poetry is only one facet of the samurai's mental training. The way of tea, chanoyu, is a sacred ritual that teaches patience, respect, and mindfulness. Preparing a simple bowl of matcha green tea becomes an act of devotion, a practice in harmony and humility. Every movement is intentional, every gesture measured. In the stillness of this ceremony, the samurai sharpens his focus, aligning mind and body with the present moment. This is discipline, not peace, a steady sharpening of awareness so that the mind can remain calm when chaos erupts. Calligraphy further hones this discipline. As you grasp the brush, you learn to control your breath and your heartbeat, to steady the trembling hand and focus the wandering mind. each stroke flows with fluid grace, demanding balance and precision. It is a dance of ink and intent, a meditation on the impermanence of life and the certainty of death. This practice trains the soul to be silent, to listen, to observe. The empty page becomes a battlefield of the mind, where the warrior wrestles with fear, doubt, and fleeting thoughts until only clarity remains. Zen Buddhism infuses these practices with profound meaning, but do not mistake Zen for peaceful tranquility. It is not a gentle calm, but a rigorous discipline that strips away illusions. Zen teaches that beauty and terror, life and death, are intertwined. The broken sword is not a failure, but a symbol of impermanence and resilience. The perfect death is not an escape, but the ultimate expression of one's honor and resolve. The mind of a samurai is forged in this crucible of paradox. You train to be silent and swift, to strike without hesitation or doubt. You cultivate appreciation for the transient beauty of a falling leaf and the inevitable end of all things. Your soul becomes a quiet pond, reflecting the storm raging around you, but never disturbed by it. Before the steel screams in battle, the soul must be silent. Before the sword cuts through flesh, the mind must cut through fear. The samurai's greatest weapon is not his blade, but his disciplined, unyielding mind, the calm eye in the storm of war and death. So you live as both killer and poet, as destroyer and creator, as warrior and monk. This is not contradiction, but completeness. The mind of the samurai is a symphony of poetry, pain, and zen, an elegant dance along the razor's edge between life and death. The war ends. The clashing of swords fades into silence. The battle cries replaced by quiet whispers and the slow rustle of falling leaves. The fields once soaked in blood grow green again, and the smoke from burning villages is but a distant memory. But you don't end. You survive. Yet survival is no victory. It is a slow, creeping sentence. You are no longer the fierce warrior who charged into the fray with heart pounding and blade gleaming. No, now you are a clerk, a guard, a shadow of the man you once were. Your hands, once calloused and sure from wielding the katana, now tremble over ink and paper, signing documents and drafting reports instead of death poems. The blade at your side, your soul's extension, hangs heavy and unused, a relic of a life that has slipped through your fingers like sand. You attend ceremonies where honor is measured in rituals and bows, rather than blood spilled on the battlefield. The music of the drums is replaced by the cold ticking of bureaucracy, and your audience is a room filled not with comrades and enemies, but with officials and nobles whose eyes see you as an artifact, a symbol of a bygone era. Your voice, once raised in the roar of war, is now muffled by protocol and decorum. Your honor rusts like your blade. The lacquer peels, the steel dulls, and the edge that once cut through armor and flesh is lost to time and neglect. The fire that once burned in your eyes flickers and dims beneath the weight of endless waiting and meaningless duties. Each day blurs into the next, a monotonous march of silence and restraint that slowly gnaws at your spirit. And in the quiet, a dangerous thing begins to grow. Envy. Envy of the dead. The ones who fell in battle, who embraced the finality of their path with courage and clarity. They did not have to endure this slow suffocation of the soul, this endless limbo where purpose is eroded by the absence of challenge and the weight of uselessness. To die with honor is to claim victory over fate. To live without purpose is to be trapped in a cage of your own making. A samurai in peace is a wolf in a cage. The instincts honed for survival chafe against the confines of safety and routine. The mind sharpens and dulls simultaneously, longing for the clash of steel and the surge of battle, yet trapped behind walls of tradition and expectation. The warrior's heart beats for the thrill of combat, the clarity of life and death decisions, the noble purpose that gives meaning to pain and sacrifice. Instead, you are forced to wear the mask of civility to suppress the storm that rages within. The blade becomes a decoration, a symbol without substance, a ghost of glory past. The rituals become chains that bind you tighter than any shackle. You are a samurai in form only, a prisoner of a peace that suffocates the very essence of your being. This peace is worse than war. War gives purpose, clarity, and a place in the eternal story of blood and honor. Peace offers none of these. It offers only time, the cruelest enemy of the warrior's soul. Time to reflect on what has been lost. Time to mourn the death of meaning. Time to watch as the world forgets the true cost of honor and sacrifice. So you endure. You carry the weight of tradition like a heavy burden, knowing that the blade at your side is no longer a tool of justice, but a relic of a violent past. You remember the roar of battle, the sting of pain, the glory of sacrifice, and you envy those who found their end in those moments. Because in peace, the samurai's greatest battle is not against an enemy, but against himself. The hunger for meaning, the craving for purpose, and the slow, silent death of honor left to rust in the shadows. The emperor decides. The old world, the world you were born into, trained for, and lived by, is slipping away like mist at dawn. The banners that once proclaimed your rank, the clang of your katana against armor, the reverberating call to honor and duty, all are fading into a distant echo. No more swords, the decree rings out. No more ranks. You are just another man now. This is not merely a law, it is a death sentence for the way of the samurai, the proud warriors who once commanded armies and shaped nations are stripped of their privilege and identity in the name of progress. The Meiji Restoration, the great march towards modernization and westernization, is a polite phrase for the obliteration of centuries-old traditions. The samurai's era, with its bloodied fields and sacred codes, is declared obsolete. You march, not as a conqueror or a lord's champion, but as a soldier in a conscripted army wielding rifles instead of blades. One last time, you stand shoulder to shoulder with men whose names mean nothing to you, in formations that erase individuality and replace it with discipline born not of honor, but of necessity. The thunder of gunfire replaces the clang of steel. The smoke and chaos of modern warfare engulf the traditions you fought to uphold. The last samurai do not fall in noble duels beneath cherry blossoms or in moonlit gardens. They die in lines of fire, swallowed by a new age that does not honor swordsmanship, but the cold efficiency of bullets and cannon. Their deaths are anonymous, lost among the mechanized carnage of a rapidly changing world. Yet even as the empire sheds its feudal skin, the spirit of the samurai does not vanish. It buries itself deep within the hearts of those who remember. The silent legacy of Bushido, the relentless pursuit of honor, discipline, and sacrifice. It hides in the whispered tales told in quiet villages, in the art and poetry that survive long after the armor has rusted. The samurai's code becomes a ghost, haunting the corridors of power and culture, a reminder that even progress demands respect for the past. It lives on in unexpected places, in the precision of a craftsman's hand, the stoic endurance of a laborer, the quiet dignity of those who walk a harder path. This is the death of an era and the birth of a legend. The samurai may no longer wield swords on battlefields, but their way shapes the soul of Japan's future. The code doesn't die. It waits, a silent sentinel guarding the memory of a time when honor was the highest currency, and death was but the final chapter in a life well lived. The Meiji Restoration may have ended the samurai's reign, but it couldn't kill the warrior's spirit. That spirit endures, waiting for the moment it will rise again, etched in history, eternal and unbroken. You will be loyal and discarded. You will be brave and forgotten. You will die well and still be called a fool. The samurai's journey is not a path paved with glory or crowned with lasting triumph. It is a journey of surrender. Not surrender to enemies, but surrender to something far greater and far more relentless. The unyielding demands of honor, fate, and death. From the moment you take up your first wooden sword as a child, you embark on a relentless march toward an inevitable end. Your loyalty is your lifeblood, binding you irrevocably to your lord's fortunes and failures. Yet loyalty does not guarantee survival or gratitude. Like the cherry blossoms that bloom brilliantly but fall swiftly, your devotion may be admired in fleeting moments, but discarded when no longer convenient. You serve as a shield, a blade, a symbol, and when your usefulness fades, so does your place in the world. Bravery courses through your veins, a fierce fire kindled by the harsh training and the sacred code of Bushido. You face death daily, not with panic or desperation, but with calm resolve. Yet bravery is not a shield against oblivion. In the shadows of history, countless samurai have been swallowed by time, their names lost beneath the sands, remembered only in the faint echoes of forgotten tales. Your courage will not secure a lasting legacy. It will secure only the moment before your fall. When your time comes, whether on the battlefield, in the quiet of your chamber, or through the ritual of seppuku, you will die well. Your death will be precise, dignified, and a testament to your life's code. It is the final act of obedience and honor. But even this sacred surrender may be misunderstood, maligned by those who do not see beyond the surface. You may be called a fool by those who never bore your burdens or glimpsed the steel beneath your calm exterior. Your sacrifice may be dismissed or distorted, your story twisted by those who seek to erase the inconvenient truths of loyalty and loss. This is the paradox of the samurai. To live by a code that demands everything and guarantees nothing but death. To accept that victory is not the true prize, but the honor of how you carry yourself until the very end. You will surrender not only your life, but your very self, to the discipline, to the fate woven by generations before you, to the inevitability of your fall. You won't be remembered for the battles you won or the foes you struck down. You'll be remembered, if at all, for how you fell. Whether with blade in hand, spirit unbroken, or in the quiet dignity of ritual death, your story will be a lesson in humility, resilience, and unwavering honor. It will be a flicker of light in the vast darkness of time, a whisper carried on the wind. Still want that katana, still desire to walk this path drenched in blood and shadowed by death? Then pick it up. Grip the hilt with steady hands. Bow deeply to the code that will both guide and bind you. And don't flinch. Not in training, not in battle, and not in the face of your own mortality. This path is not for the faint of heart or the seeker of glory. It is for those who embrace surrender as strength and death as the ultimate honor. It is for those who will live and die by a way that is both brutal and beautiful, a way that demands everything and asks for nothing in return. If you are ready, then step forward. The way of the samurai awaits. The world is softer now. Steel-clad warriors no longer roam battlefields, and the echo of clashing swords has been replaced by the hum of machines and the click of keyboards. Cities stretch upward, cloaked in glass and neon, far from the misty forests and quiet temples where samurai once trained in silence and sweat. Yet, despite the shifting tides of time, the spirit of the samurai endures, not in armor or sword, but in something far more elusive and powerful. Honor is not dead. It is buried deep beneath layers of modern noise and distraction, a quiet current running beneath the surface of a restless world. It calls to those who listen, the few who still understand that true strength is not flaunted, but quietly lived. Discipline, once hammered into muscle and bone through endless drills, now takes shape in the unyielding dedication to craft, principle, and integrity. The courage that once faced the battlefield's fury now faces the subtle wars of ethics, responsibility, and self-mastery. You won't wear armor. The lacquered plates and silk cords have given way to tailored suits and smart devices. But perhaps you'll live by a code no one else understands. A code that demands you bow when others shout, walk silently when others boast, and choose sacrifice when others grasp for selfish gain. This makes you dangerous in a world ruled by pride and noise, or foolish in the eyes of those who cannot see beyond the surface. Perhaps both. In boardrooms and classrooms, in workshops and studios, the samurai spirit flickers in the hearts of those who strive for more than success, measured by wealth or fame. The relentless pursuit of perfection, the refusal to compromise integrity for convenience, the quiet resilience that carries one through failure and disappointment. These are the echoes of a time when a man's worth was weighed by the honor he upheld, not the fortune he amassed. In a world obsessed with speed and sensation, the one who pauses to reflect, who practices patience and humility, wields a power far greater than any sword. The samurai understood that ego is the enemy. That true mastery comes from surrendering self-importance and embracing a larger purpose. To live without ego is to be free of the chains that bind most to fear and desire. Sacrifice is no longer the battlefield death, but the daily acts of choosing what is right over what is easy. It is the courage to stand alone when the crowd demands conformity. It is the strength to remain silent when words would betray your values. It is the grace to endure hardship without complaint, and the wisdom to see beyond immediate gain to lasting legacy. The samurai's way is not a relic locked in the past. It is a living tradition, a mindset that adapts and survives through centuries. It whispers in the art of the calligrapher who pours soul into each stroke, in the focus of the martial artist who trains not to conquer others but to master self, in the discipline of the craftsman who honors every detail as a sacred duty. The most powerful person in the room may be the one who bows first, listens longest, and sacrifices most. In a world where noise often drowns wisdom, where pride blinds understanding, this quiet strength commands respect, not through force, but through presence. So while the world softens, the samurai spirit remains sharp. It is a blade forged in discipline, tempered by honor, and honed by sacrifice. It lives in those who dare to walk a path less understood, who choose courage over comfort, and who find power not in conquest, but in character. This is the legacy of the samurai, not in armor or battle, but in the enduring code that shapes the soul. And as long as there are those willing to live by it, the spirit of the samurai will never die. You've heard the legends, the katana, the soul of the samurai, the blade whispered about in hushed reverence and awe, folded steel, countless layers pressed and hammered until the metal glows like liquid fire. A sword so sharp it can slice through silk as effortlessly as it cleaves bone. The perfect curve, the whispering edge, the blade that dances with death as easily as it sings with the wind. But forget the myths, the stories told by poets and painters. The katana is not magic. It is merciless. The forging of a katana is a ritual of patience and precision, a process that demands equal parts art and science. The smith folds the steel hundreds of times, welding it together to create layers that give the blade strength and flexibility, qualities essential for a weapon meant to cut swiftly without breaking. One mistake in the folding, a moment of impatience, a misjudged temperature, and the blade is ruined. A worthless shard of twisted metal. The katana is a temperamental partner. It does not forgive carelessness. This blade is born in fire and hammered in sweat, shaped by hands that understand both the fragility and ferocity of steel. It is sharpened on whetstones of varying grit, each pass bringing the edge closer to perfection, each stroke a whisper of discipline and devotion. To wield a katana is to hold centuries of craftsmanship and history in your hands, but also to carry the weight of its demands. Because the katana is a judge, it weighs your skill, your resolve, your focus. It listens to the tension in your grip, the steadiness of your breath, the precision of your strike. You do not simply wield the katana, it tests you. One lapse in concentration, one moment's hesitation, and the blade turns on you like a silent executioner. A slight misstep, and the sword that was meant to protect you becomes the instrument of your downfall. It is as unforgiving as death itself. Combat with a katana is an extension of the warrior's body and mind. The sword moves fluidly, a deadly brushstroke painting death in swift arcs and lightning-fast cuts. But this dance demands years, decades of relentless training. The samurai drills endlessly, mastering footwork, timing, and the precise angle of each strike. Muscle memory becomes instinct. The blade becomes a part of the self. Only then does the katana become truly lethal. Yet even mastery does not grant safety. The katana does not discriminate between friend and foe, master and novice. It cuts true according to the skill and intent behind it. It demands humility. The warrior must know himself as well as his enemy, or the blade will betray him when he least expects it. Blood stains the katana's edge, not just the enemy's, but the wielder's too. A perfect cut means a clean death. A flawed strike means injury or worse. The blade sings in battle, but its song is one of finality. It ends lives as swiftly as it begins them, a reminder that every moment with the sword is a dance with mortality. The katana's myth is born from this duality. beauty and brutality entwined in steel. It is a symbol of the samurai soul, a sacred tool, a weapon of unmatched elegance and deadly precision. But behind the myth is the truth. The katana demands respect, discipline, and absolute devotion. It does not bend to whim or vanity. It is a partner forged in fire and blood, a judge that will punish the careless and reward only the worthy. So if you desire the katana, know this: it is not an object to be admired from afar. It is a harsh master that will test your courage and skill every moment you draw it from its sheath. To wield the katana is to accept a lifelong pact of discipline, sacrifice, and relentless pursuit of perfection. You must become its equal, or it will be your silent executioner. Were samurai born into it? Were they cradled from infancy in the arms of destiny, their fates sealed by the weight of noble bloodlines and ancestral honor? Or were they forged in the relentless fires of trial and battle, shaped by sweat, pain, and the unforgiving hand of fate? The truth is far crueler and far more complex than any simple story of birthright or inherited glory. Some samurai did inherit their status, born into families whose names carried weight like the sharpest blade. Their bloodlines were etched into the fabric of society, generations of warriors whose legacies were preserved in scrolls and whispered in the halls of castles. They were groomed from youth, their paths mapped out by the expectations of ancestors who had spilled blood and sacrificed lives to carve a place in the world. To be born a samurai was a blessing and a burden, a crown heavy with responsibility, where every action was measured against the towering shadows of those who came before. But lineage alone was never enough. The samurai's world was brutal and unforgiving, indifferent to titles and pedigrees when the clang of steel demanded more than just a noble name. Many who were born into privilege fell short, broken by their own weaknesses or the unforgiving tides of war. Blood does not steel the heart or steady the hand. It does not teach patience in the face of fear or sharpen the mind when death looms close. Others earned their place the hard way, through the merciless grind of battlefields soaked with blood and mud. These were men who stepped into the fires of war without the safety net of heritage, proving themselves time and again with sweat, skill, and sacrifice. They forged their honor not from birth but from deeds, carving their names into history with every swing of the blade and every act of loyalty. For them, the samurai code was a challenge embraced, not an inheritance accepted. Their legacy was built, brick by bloody brick, in the crucible of pain and perseverance. And then there were those who were never meant to be warriors, men and boys caught in the tide of a violent era, thrust into roles that crushed their spirits before they could fully form. They died trying, their bodies broken and buried beneath fields of honor not claimed, their stories lost among the countless nameless souls who paid the ultimate price. Their blood mingled with others on battlefields where birth and destiny meant nothing, where survival was the only measure of worth. Blood alone does not make you noble. The shine of a family crest does not protect you when the cold steel of a sword is pressed to your throat. In the end, the world of the samurai is ruthless, where heritage can open doors but cannot keep you from falling into the abyss of dishonor or death. The true test is what you are willing to lose. Your pride, your comfort, your very life, all surrendered in the pursuit of a code greater than yourself. The samurai legacy is not a birthright. It is a gauntlet thrown down to anyone daring enough to grasp it. It is a testament to the sacrifices made and the courage summoned in moments when the heart could have faltered but did not. It is the story of men who chose to rise, to fight, and to die by a way that demands everything and offers nothing but honor in return. So ask yourself, were you born into this, or will you be forged by it? Because in the end, it is not who your father was that defines you. It is what you are willing to lose. The samurai wears a mask, not always forged of iron and lacquered with lacquer, but one no less heavy and no less necessary. A mask woven from discipline, silence, and unyielding control. This mask is his armor against the world, a carefully crafted facade that hides the turmoil beneath. It is the face he presents to lords and peasants alike, a visage polished by years of practice to conceal everything that might betray weakness, fear, desire, doubt. You never show fear. Not because you lack it, that would be a lie, but because the code demands its suppression. Fear is a poison that can unravel the strongest warrior, and the samurai learns early to seal it away, to bury it beneath a steely calm. When the enemy draws near, when death whispers in your ear, your face remains unreadable, a mask of unshakable resolve that turns terror into a weapon rather than a shackle. You never show desire. Desire is vulnerability, a chink in the armor that can be exploited. The samurai's passions are tempered by duty, his wants subordinated to the greater good of honor and loyalty. Even in moments of solitude, longing is a silent flame snuffed out by the discipline that governs his every breath. The mask is not just a shield, but a cage containing impulses that might unravel the delicate balance between man and warrior. You bow to fools, smile through betrayal, obey tyrants, not because you condone their actions or share their values, but because the mask requires it. A samurai's face is a mirror reflecting the expectations of those around him, not the chaos raging within. In the court of power, diplomacy often masquerades as weakness, and submission is the prelude to survival. The mask plays the part demanded by the moment, hiding contempt beneath courtesy and rage beneath a measured smile. Underneath the mask, the truth festers. Rage burns like a hidden fire, a tempest of frustration at injustice, betrayal, and the harsh demands of the code. Doubt creeps in during the silent hours, questions about purpose, about the worth of sacrifice, about the meaning of honor, when death is the constant companion. Pain gnaws at the soul. Physical wounds healed, but emotional scars that bleed unseen. The samurai's mask is not a denial of these feelings, but a rejection of their display. Yet none of this matters outwardly. The world judges the mask, not the man beneath. To live by the code is to kill yourself, not in a single act of seppuku, but repeatedly, every day. Every emotion suppressed, every instinct subdued, every moment of doubt silenced is a small death. The self is sacrificed piece by piece until there is nothing left but the mask, flawless, unyielding, eternal. This dual identity is the samurai's burden and his strength. The mask allows him to walk through the fires of war and court alike, untouched by chaos, immune to distraction. It is the armor of the soul, forged in discipline and necessity. But it is also a prison, a hollow shell that can trap the man he once was or might have been. The samurai becomes a living paradox, a warrior of flesh and blood, yet also a statue carved of stone, silent and unchanging. The mask commands obedience, respect, fear, and loyalty, sometimes all at once. It is the line between life and death, between honor and disgrace, between man and legend. To see beyond the mask is to glimpse the fragile humanity beneath, the torment, the sacrifice, the relentless struggle to reconcile duty with self. But the samurai never reveals this face. It is hidden behind layers of expectation and tradition, locked away beneath the unyielding mask that defines his existence. And so, the samurai lives and dies as the mask he wears, immortal in legend, inscrutable in practice, and utterly alone in truth. They tell you samurai were men. The tales you've heard, the legends that swirl through history, speak almost exclusively of men clad in armor, brandishing katana, charging into battle with fierce roars. But this is only half the story. At best, a shadow cast by a brighter flame. Because lurking in the margins, often overlooked, erased, or silenced, are the onabugeisha, the warrior women who lived by the same code, who trained with equal rigor, who fought with equal ferocity, and who died with the same unwavering honor. These women were no mere footnotes. They were skilled with the naginata, the long, curved pole arm that could slice through armor and keep enemies at bay. With nimble hands and quick minds, they mastered hidden weapons, tanto knives concealed beneath kimono folds, blades that could strike swiftly and silently in the chaos of war. They were the silent blades in the shadows, defenders of homes, castles, and clans when their husbands, fathers, and brothers were away on the battlefield. Imagine the fierce determination required to stand alone behind castle walls, spear in hand, knowing that the fate of your family's honor rests not on distant fields, but on your shoulders. You guard the gates against invading forces, your breath steady, your heart pounding, not with fear, but with resolve. You are the last line of defense, the shield behind which children and elders hide. The clash of enemy steel rings in your ears, but you do not waver. Many onabugeisha faced the ultimate test of their honor, not just on the battlefield, but in the silent ritual of seppuku, the act of choosing death over disgrace. They knew the same code that demanded loyalty and courage from their male counterparts, applied to them without mercy. To die by their own hand wasn't surrender, but the highest form of respect for their family and themselves. These women embraced death as bravely as they had wielded their weapons. Some rose to lead entire armies, commanding respect in a world ruled by men. Their strategies and leadership were honed through experience and bloodshed, and their courage inspired those who followed. Yet their names rarely echo through the grand halls of history. Their stories were buried beneath the tides of time, buried perhaps because they shone too brightly, disrupting the narrative of a male-dominated warrior class. But their blood ran just as fiercely, their sweat soaked just as deeply into the soil of their homeland. Their sacrifices shaped the fate of clans and kingdoms. The onabugeisha were samurai, not by accident or exception, but by choice, by action, and by the unbreakable bond of the warrior's code. To recognize them is to recognize the true breadth of what it meant to be a samurai. It is to understand that honor, courage, and sacrifice know no gender. It is to see the sword not just in the hands of men, but in the hands of women whose spirits burned as hot and fierce. So when you think of samurai, remember the onabugeisha, the silent blades in the shadows, the warriors who carried the weight of family and honor with grace and ferocity. Their stories may have been hidden, but their legacy endures. In every strike of a blade, in every whisper of the wind across the fields they defended, and in every heartbeat that dares to walk the path of the warrior, regardless of gender. They were samurai in every way that truly mattered. You kneel, your armor presses cold against the wooden floor, your hands steady but your heart thunderous. You obey every command, every demand, every cruel expectation laid upon your shoulders by a lord whose favor means life or death. You kill for him, spill blood for him, pledge your very soul to his cause. Yet, beneath the surface of loyalty lies a darker truth. Loyalty is not a shield. It is a leash, tight, unyielding, and capable of strangling the very spirit it claims to protect. The samurai code is clear. Die with honor. Embrace death as the final act of devotion. But what if the Lord you serve, the man whose name you carry on your lips and whose banner you fight beneath, deserves none of that honor? What if he is a tyrant cloaked in silk, a monster who manipulates loyalty like a puppeteer pulling strings, using your sacrifice to mask his own sins? Whispers swirl like smoke through the corridors of power, rumors of betrayal, schemes hatched in shadowed rooms, alliances made and broken in silence. And then the whisper reaches your lord's ear, a poison that stains your name, a lie dressed as truth. Suddenly, you are the traitor. The loyalty you bled to uphold becomes the very noose that tightens around your neck. In this brutal world, justice is not a balanced scale, but a blade wielded by those in power. Honor becomes a weapon used to justify murder. The samurai who questions his lord's will risks everything: the safety of family, the respect of comrades, the fragile thread of his own life. Can you defy the command that condemns you? To speak out is to brand yourself a rebel, a threat to order, a stain upon the code you once revered. So you become a ghost, invisible, silent, waiting in the shadows for a moment to strike or disappear forever. Your loyalty twisted into chains that bind you tighter than iron shackles. Your very existence a paradox, bound by a code that demands faith but punishes doubt. How can one be loyal and just when the line between righteousness and cruelty blurs beneath the weight of obedience? The greatest betrayal is not in turning your blade on a friend or lord, but in losing yourself to a system that demands sacrifice without question, that uses honor as a mask for tyranny. The samurai's path is treacherous, not only because of external enemies, but because of the invisible forces within, the lies whispered behind closed doors, the false smiles concealing poison, the promises broken beneath the weight of ambition. Loyalty, once the samurai's greatest strength, becomes his most deadly vulnerability. It is a leash that can choke, a yoke that bends the will, a noose woven from trust betrayed. And when the time comes to face death, to choose between obedience and justice, many find there is no true choice, only the cold certainty that the path of honor may lead to a fate worse than death. So you kneel, you obey, you kill, and you wonder, can honor survive betrayal? Can loyalty endure when wielded as a weapon against the very soul it is meant to protect? Or must you become a ghost, silent, unseen, and forever bound by a code that devours its own?